Good evening, everyone. Moms Against Medical Bullying. I just want to chat for a second about codependent parents. This is something that I've struggled with for a long time. Not that I'm not codependent, but experiencing a codependent parent. But I feel like possibly experiencing a codependent parent has helped me in a way to resist manipulation, to kind of pick up on when I'm being manipulated into bullshit. Excuse my language, but that's what it is. And I feel like the medical cult has a lot of codependent ways as well. For a long time, I struggled wondering, is this parent narcissist or codependent? And I know that, they can overlap possibly. I don't know. I'm not an expert, although I was a psych undergrad. But, in undergrad, you don't learn much about anything. Undergrad school is basically like high school with a little bit of extra classes on top of it. Unfortunately, that's how they rip you off a little bit. But yeah, so I think that growing up with a codependent parent helped me to resist the codependent behavior by the medical mafia and by doctors as well. Codependent parents, I think, can make you feel like you owe them something. And, the medical cult makes people feel like we owe them our children. Like, as soon as you give birth, you have to hand over your baby to these people because you owe them. You owe them something. And if you don't do what they say, you're a selfish little brat. This is kind of like how a codependent parent would talk to you. Growing up with a codependent parent can bring a lot of confusion to your life. I mean, it has for me. Experiencing this type of person just brings a lot of confusion and self-doubt. And I feel like the medical cult does the same thing to people. They have this codependent characteristic where they do, they gaslight. Because they gaslight, they do this directly to parents in their office. And so they bring confusion to people. They don't accept people and what they're saying. They always have to be right. The doctors I'm speaking about. and so do codependent parents. I watched a video that laid out just 8 signs. Not, it wasn't a all-encompassing, like, I'm sure there's probably more characteristics of codependent parenting out there, but it laid out 8 signs. And I was like, holy moly, like, I experienced every single one of those signs. It was crazy. I'm like, thank you so much for this video, because I feel like it validated me, or like it confirmed to me, like, okay, this is what I've experienced. So yeah, I feel like this medical cult shares a lot of the characteristics of this codependent parenting. Let me see. So yeah, the video I watched said, 1, codependent parents have a victim mentality. Everything is always an offense to them. Like, kind of like, what have I done to deserve this type of thing? And it, and it will be something like, not something you did directly to them. Say you did something without them or something like that, and they just got offended by that. Not that you directly hurt them or intentionally did, but they will just become offended, and everything is always about them. The world kind of revolves around them, and if you do something without their kind of like approval, you have offended them, you have hurt them. And what the video said, which I agree with, is that this can stem from not dealing with their own traumas. in their own life. And I totally have seen this and totally agree with this, that I've noticed that it does stem from trauma. It does stem from not acknowledging it and not properly processing it and becoming aware of, first you have to acknowledge that you were wrong. And people who are codependent that I've experienced, they don't admit when they're wrong. So if you can't admit that you're wrong, you're never going to look for another reason. You're never going to go deeper to be more self-reflective and say, well, why am I acting this way? Where does this stem from? Where does this come from? What pain does this come from? There is pain there. Codependent parents are never wrong. I already said that. They can never be wrong, even when they are interacting with an adult child. They are just never friggin' wrong. And they assert themselves over you and create a type of dominance that you are always wrong and they are always right. And it's no point debating with them, because they won't ever think they're wrong, or they won't ever try to see things in another way. They won't ever try to give you the upper hand to think, wow, she has a point, or let me try to understand her. Like, no, they don't think like that. They just always seek to correct you. That's their thing. They always have to correct you. You know? They have to correct everything about you, because everything you're doing is wrong. And they can correct everything to make it right. Maybe that just makes up for the failure in their life, for the chaos in their life, you know? So yeah, they need to assert dominance and always be right. The third one was that they're overly emotional. When they lose control in an argument, then they cry and resort to being a victim mentality. If the child doesn't respond to the parent's emotions, the child or the person on the other end is accused of being selfish or insensitive. Only the codependent parent's feelings matter, not yours. Only their feelings matter. They're always the one that's offended, and they've always been wronged by everyone. And I've experienced that my codependent parent also behaves this way with other people as well, not just with the child. Let's see here. It says codependent parents never listen. They don't listen. They're not really listening, so there's no point in talking, I guess. Number 5 is codependent parents parrot words or phrases. They turn it around to suit themselves. So the video said, like, if you say something hurts you, they'll come back and say that you hurt them. That kind of goes in line with always playing the victim. It's getting dark here, that's why it's whatever. The codependent parent has mood swings. Yep, mood swings. And number 7, the codependent parent needs to maintain control. They need devotion and love that they fail to receive. And this is another thing that I noticed. This was a major one too with my codependent parent. There was definitely an empty hole that needed filling. First, and I was never really big on affection as a child. I hated affection. I hated being forced into affection too, and that's one thing the codependent parent wanted to do. If they needed love and they wanted a hug and you didn't want to give them a hug, well, then you were just seen as a bad person. You're selfish. You're cold. You know, they can't understand that, oh, I understand you don't want a hug. That's fine. You're still a good person. Like, you're okay. No, if you don't want to hug them when they feel that they want to hug you, you're cold. And, you know, you're depriving them of the affection that they need. And that comes from, like I said, like, I think it comes from a place of, you know, that trauma and not receiving the appropriate affection that they needed from the appropriate people. A vampiric relationship, you know? They want to suck off you. And that's how I have felt. The parent will manipulate you to appear frail. For instance, like, you know, if you don't go along with what they want or you oppose them, if you dare to oppose them and like say opposite of them and stand your ground with them, they will be like, oh, I'm so sick. I can't believe that you're treating me like this in my sick condition, you know, like something like that. Okay, so it's getting really dark now. Number 8 is manipulation. Yeah, so that's a big one. They always want to manipulate you to do what they want you to do. And I think that, you know, obviously the medical cult shares that characteristic as well. And I feel like dealing with that manipulation and resisting it from an earlier age kind of helped me to resist harming my child with vaccinations, you know. It just made me realize, I guess, that people can manipulate you and that people are I don't know, they just try to get you to do what they want you to do. They have a way about them that they want to get you to do what they want you to do, even though it might not be the right thing for you. So having that understanding helped me to resist these people. So yeah, like if you're tied to a codependent person, they'll try to manipulate you with finances and stuff like that too. That's why I never try to be dependent on a codependent person, because they thrive off of that. They love to have somebody to be dependent off of. Sorry, I'm waving up. Yeah, so yeah, they'll do that. They want to they need to have something to manipulate you with, money or whatever. So they like when people depend on them. They like when people need them, because then they get to control your life more because you need them, and they thrive on that. They need somebody to need them. And maybe, you know, that probably stems from, you know, not having appropriate relationships as a child or whatever, you know, through growing up. They make you, in my experience, having a codependent parent makes you feel like nothing you do is good enough, because in their mind, they always have a better way for you and they always have a better plan for you. And in their mind, they think that is caring about you. But in reality, it's controlling and it's demeaning and it's wrong. And it's not accepting a person for who they are and honoring them and their specific characteristics and beliefs and thoughts. So that's how a codependent parent is. So yeah. So that's all about that I wanted to share. You know, just like you would maintain boundaries with a medical doctor, because you understand they have some of those characteristics of the codependency and control. So you have to maintain your distance and maintain those healthy boundaries and remain firm in who you are. And that's it.